So, over the last couple of weeks, I've really been pushing to get the first fire up on the W203 C400 project. After building some engine mounts and a gearbox mount, finishing up the center exit exhaust, wiring up the power mod standalone ECU, and lastly building a custom aluminium fuel cell, this beast fired right up. Now getting the car to move under its own power, well, that's gonna take a bit more work. Next thing on the list is going to be figuring out a new shifter because, well, the Ford shifter is just not gonna work. So we'll have to make something custom. So I got a few comments on this topic, and this video should explain kind of the route I'm going with this. Yes, a manual transmission would be freaking sick in this thing, but for now the auto is gonna have to do. Honestly, I'm kind of excited for this because I might have a few tricks up my sleeve. So let's build a new shifter for the C400. That right there, folks, is some redneck engineering at its best. Definitely no motion racework shifter, but this will do the do. And anyway, most of it will be hidden in the center console, so this is perfect. So after figuring out what needs to happen for this thing to actually work, I did went ahead and add the second shifter. So the first big or tall shifter is going to be for getting the car into park, reverse, neutral and drive, and then the second shifter with its shift knob, nice, that's going to control the electrical side of things. So first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. Honestly, at the moment I'm only certain of first gear, second gear and then what I think is third gear. But once we get the car up and running, I'll tinker a bit more with that and figure out third and fourth. But for now, first and second is all we need to do some sick burnouts. You know, goals. And then one more thing is I made this little lockout plate. So that's going to take over the function of this button. So you can't really get the car out of park, reverse, neutral and drive without pushing the button. So that'll just kind of keep the shifter in the gear I selected. Something like that, but I'm excited to get this in the car and see how it looks. So let's throw that in there and see how the final product came out. So we have park, reverse, neutral and drive, and then first gear, second gear, third gear. So that's going to work perfect, pretty sure of that. And now you can also understand why I got that rubber bushing in there. That's just to be able to move the shifter to the side and then get it into the gear I wanted. But now sometimes you need to take a few steps back to move forward, and the engine does need to come out once more, hopefully for the last time. I'm pretty sure it's for the last time, but there are three things I need to take care of. Number one is to get this wiring sorted out. I can't get to that plug at the moment, so that's thing number two. Is I need to cut into the firewall or make a plan with that. Another thing is I need to take care of the transmission cooler lines. So that's gonna go with the cooling system. So wiring those lines, and there was one more thing. Oh, the brakes. I keep forgetting about the brakes, and that's the freaking most important thing. So while we have the engine out, I do want to get started figuring out the brakes. At this point, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with it, but having the engine outside, that's just gonna be much easier to work on that and get that done. So let's pull out the engine, hopefully for the last time. So it's the next day, and I will say I'm kind of a professional at this point at removing the engine. I wired up the engine so that everything can just be unplugged. Then the two engine mount bolts, one gearbox mount bolt, and Bob's your uncle. Engine quick release. However, before I pulled out the engine, I did two things. So number one being, I misspoke about making a hole in the firewall for that round plug over there. That's going to be more in the transmission tunnel. So I'll make that here in a second. And then another thing I wanted to get done is measure out the length of the drive shaft. Here is the Mercedes drive shaft, and then here is the drive shaft that came out of the Ford. So we need to make a plan somehow. I'm not sure how. The piece that goes into the transmission of the Ford has to be connected to the piece that connects up to the diff of the Mercedes. So even though I build most things or fabricate most things on the project C400, I'm not very comfortable messing around with the drive shaft. So I'm going to take that in so they can figure that out for me. Hopefully they can make a plan, because there's a big difference between the two drive shafts. I have little to no knowledge about this stuff, but I'm sure they can figure that out for me, because that is a very important piece to get the car moving. And then another thing I talked about are these transmission cooler lines that run to the front of the engine and into the radiator. So it seems like I will be able to reuse them without having to make any changes. I'll probably just clean this up here in a second and connect them up, because when I go ahead and get the engine back into the car, they need to be on there, because I can't get to them once the engine is in the car. As we know, it's a pretty snug fit. So let me do that real quick and make that hole in the trans tunnel. And there we go. Now that's ready to go after we sort out the brakes. Very important. I would like to get rid of the ABS system of this car. I think it's just going to clean up the engine bay a lot, so want to look into that. But I've never worked on brakes before. Everything on the M104 Turbo just worked out perfect. The ABS in that thing still works, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, I hope you guys had a great Easter weekend. I'm on my way to have some family time, and then we'll come back and get back to work on this thing. And then I always forget to ask you guys to please like the videos. That really just helps motivate me to continue with these kind of things. But even though I do forget, you guys still kill it, so thank you so much for always liking the videos. Like I said, it really motivates me to keep going on this thing. Not always the easiest, but damn am I blessed to be doing this. Anyway, happy Easter, and then I'll see you in the next one. Peace.